Rain tapped softly against the kitchen window as Emma Carter stood motionless beside the sink. The house smelled faintly of lavender cleaner and the pasta she had cooked an hour earlier, now cold on the table. She glanced at the clock. 10:47 p.m. Her husband, Daniel, had texted earlier. Asterisk, working late again. Don't wait up. Asterisk. It was the third time this week. Emma tried to convince herself it was normal. Daniel was a financial consultant. Late nights happened. But something inside her chest had been tightening for weeks, a quiet voice whispering that something wasn't right. She picked up her phone. No new messages. Her fingers hovered over Daniel's contact. Asterisk, should I call? Asterisk. She hesitated. Then the phone buzzed suddenly in her hand. But it wasn't Daniel. It was a notification. A credit card charge. Emma frowned and opened the banking app. Asterisk asterisk $84.60, Bella Luna Italian restaurant asterisk asterisk. Her eyebrows knitted together. Bella Luna was across town. And Daniel's card was supposed to be locked in the desk drawer upstairs. A slow, uneasy chill crept down her spine. She opened the drawer. The card was gone. Emma stared at the empty space. Her heart began beating faster. Maybe he took it for dinner with clients. Yes, that must be it. She grabbed her coat anyway. Just to check. Just to make sure. The rain had turned heavier by the time Emma reached the restaurant. Bella Luna glowed warmly against the wet pavement, golden lights reflecting across puddles. Couples sat inside laughing over wine glasses. Emma parked across the street. Her hands trembled slightly on the steering wheel. This was ridiculous. She was being paranoid. Daniel probably had clients. But something made her step out of the car anyway. She crossed the street slowly. The hostess greeted her with a smile. Good evening. Table for one. Emma forced a polite smile. Actually, I'm looking for someone. She scanned the restaurant. And then she saw him. Daniel. Sitting in the corner. Across from a woman. Young. Beautiful. Laughing. Emma froze. The room seemed to tilt. Daniel reached across the table and gently touched the woman's hand. The woman leaned forward and kissed him. Not a friendly kiss. A slow, intimate kiss. Emma felt the air leave her lungs. Her husband. The man she had spent 8 years loving. The man who promised forever. Kissing someone else. The hostess noticed Emma staring. Are you okay? Emma blinked, realizing tears had already begun sliding down her cheeks. No, she whispered. Then she turned and walked out. Emma didn't remember getting back into her car. She only remembered the sound of rain pounding against the windshield. Her chest felt hollow. Like something inside her had shattered. Asterisk 8 years. Asterisk. 8 years of memories. Vacations. Birthdays. Late night talks about the future. All of it suddenly felt like a lie. Her phone buzzed. Daniel. She stared at the screen. He was calling. Emma let it ring. Then ring again. Then finally she answered. Emma. Daniel's voice sounded irritated. Where are you? Emma laughed softly. Not a happy laugh. You tell me, Daniel. Silence. What do you mean? I saw you. Another pause. Longer this time. Then Daniel sighed. Emma, it's not what you think. Emma wiped her tears angrily. That line is older than our marriage. Listen, Daniel said, his tone turning cold. Let's talk about this tomorrow. No, Emma whispered. I already know everything I need to know. She hung up. Her hands were shaking now. The world felt heavy. Pointless. Empty. Emma started the engine and drove without thinking. The rain blurred the road. She didn't know where she was going. Only that she couldn't go home. Not tonight. 30 minutes later, Emma pulled into a nearly empty roadside café. The neon sign flickered weakly. She walked inside. A few truck drivers sat at the counter. A tired waitress wiped tables. Emma slid into a booth near the window. Her tears had stopped, but her eyes burned. The waitress approached. "What can I get you, sweetheart?" Emma hesitated. "Coffee." The waitress nodded. "Coming right up." Emma stared out at the rain. Her mind replayed the scene again and again. Daniel's hand. The kiss. The smile he used to give her. She didn't notice someone sit in the booth across from her. "Mind if I sit here?" Emma blinked and looked up. A man in his early 30s sat opposite her. Tall. Dark hair. Kind eyes. He held a cup of coffee. "There aren't many empty seats tonight," he said with a small smile. Emma glanced around. Half the cafe was empty. But she didn't argue. "Sure." The man studied her for a moment. "You look like someone who just had the worst day of her life." Emma let out a bitter laugh. "You're not wrong." He extended his hand. "Lucas." Emma hesitated. Then shook it. "Emma." Lucas nodded toward the window. Rain has a funny way of bringing people together in strange places. Emma stared into her coffee. "Tonight it brought me here because my husband cheated on me." Lucas didn't react with shock. He simply nodded slowly. "That explains the eyes." Emma frowned slightly. "What?" "Eyes like yours," Lucas said gently. "They only appear after heartbreak." Emma studied him. "Are you some kind of therapist?" Lucas smiled faintly. "No. Just someone who's been there." Emma sighed and leaned back in the booth. "Well, congratulations. You met tonight's emotional disaster." Lucas took a slow sip of coffee. "You're not a disaster." Emma scoffed. "Tell that to my marriage." Lucas watched the rain for a moment. Then he said quietly, "Sometimes the worst nights of our lives are actually the beginning of something better." Emma shook her head. "Right now that sounds like something printed on a cheap motivational poster." Lucas chuckled. "Fair enough." He stood up and placed a $20 bill on the table. "For your coffee." Emma blinked. "You don't have to do that." Lucas shrugged. "Consider it a small kindness from a stranger." He turned to leave. Then paused. And looked back at her. "Emma." "Yes?" "Tonight might feel like the end of your world. But trust me." He gave a small, knowing smile. "It's only the beginning." Then he walked out into the rain. Emma sat there, confused. She didn't know why. But something about that stranger's word stayed with her. She had no idea that meeting Lucas that night would change her life forever. Emma barely slept. She had driven home sometime after midnight, though she couldn't remember the exact moment she pulled into the driveway. The house looked the same as always. Warm yellow porch light. Trimmed hedges. The small wooden swing Daniel built for her 3 summers ago. But it no longer felt like home. It felt like a stage where a lie had been performed for 8 years. Emma entered quietly. Daniel's car wasn't in the driveway. That alone said everything. She walked into the kitchen and sat at the table where dinner still waited. Cold pasta. 2 plates. 2 wine glasses. She stared at them for a long time. Then she stood up, carried everything to the trash, and dumped it without hesitation. The sound of the plates hitting the bottom of the bin echoed through the silent house. Something inside her snapped. And strangely, she felt calmer. The confrontation. Daniel came home at 8:15 the next morning. Emma heard the garage door open. Then footsteps. Keys on the counter. A sigh. He walked into the kitchen and froze when he saw her sitting at the table. For a moment neither of them spoke. Daniel rubbed his temples. "Emma." His voice sounded tired, not guilty. That hurt even more. Emma folded her hands together. "Go ahead. Explain." Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "It's not what it looked like." Emma stared at him. "Daniel. I watched you kiss her." He opened his mouth. Closed it. Then he exhaled. "Okay, yes. Emma's chest tightened, but she stayed calm. How long? Daniel looked away. A few months. Emma nodded slowly. So the late meetings? Yes. The weekend conferences? Yes. The work trips? Daniel hesitated. Some of them. Emma felt something heavy settle inside her chest. Not pain anymore. Just clarity. Do you love her? Daniel shrugged slightly. It's complicated. Emma almost laughed. No. It's actually very simple. She stood up. We're done. Daniel's eyes widened. Emma, don't be dramatic. Dramatic, she repeated quietly. You cheated on me. Daniel crossed his arms defensively. People make mistakes. For months. He didn't answer. Emma walked past him toward the hallway. Where are you going? Daniel asked. To start the divorce process. Daniel scoffed. You're overreacting. Emma turned back. No. Her voice was calm now. I'm finally reacting the correct way. Packing the past. Emma packed only what she truly needed. Clothes. Important documents. Her grandmother's necklace. A photo of her parents. Everything else suddenly felt meaningless. 8 years of shared furniture and decorations. It was all part of a life that no longer existed. Daniel watched from the doorway. You're seriously leaving? Emma zipped her suitcase. Yes. Where will you go? I'll figure it out. Daniel shook his head. You're being irrational. Emma paused. Then looked at him with surprising calm. No, Daniel. I was irrational when I believed you loved me. Silence filled the room. Then she grabbed her suitcase and walked past him. Daniel didn't stop her. And that said everything. A temporary beginning. Emma checked into a small extended-stay hotel across town. It wasn't luxurious. But it was quiet. And for the first time in weeks, her chest felt lighter. She spent the next few days handling practical matters. Calling a lawyer. Canceling shared accounts. Changing passwords. Every step felt like removing another thread from the life she once knew. Yet at night, when the world grew quiet, the memories returned. The wedding. The promises. The laughter. She wondered how something so real could turn out to be an illusion. An unexpected encounter. 3 days later, Emma stopped at a small bookstore cafe downtown. She needed fresh air. A distraction. She ordered tea and sat near the window with a novel she couldn't focus on. But something caught her eye. Across the room. A familiar face. Lucas. The stranger from the rainy night. He sat at a table with a laptop, typing quickly. Emma hesitated. Then she stood and walked over. Lucas looked up and smiled in surprise. Well, if it isn't the woman from the storm. Emma folded her arms. You knew this place. I come here sometimes to work. He closed the laptop. How are you holding up? Emma pulled out the chair and sat down. Divorcing my husband. Lucas nodded calmly. Progress. Emma raised an eyebrow. That's your definition of progress. Lucas shrugged. Sometimes the most painful decisions are the healthiest ones. Emma studied him more carefully this time. He looked relaxed. Confident. Like someone who carried very little chaos in his life. Can I ask you something? Emma said. Of course. Why were you so nice to a complete stranger that night? Lucas smiled faintly. Because once upon a time. He leaned back slightly. A stranger did the same thing for me. Emma waited. But Lucas didn't elaborate. So what do you do? She asked. Lucas tapped the laptop. I run a company. Emma blinked. A company? Technology. Small startup. Emma nodded politely. Though something told her there was more to the story. Lucas studied her for a moment. What's your plan now? Emma sighed. I honestly have no idea. Lucas leaned forward slightly. Then maybe this is the best moment of your life. Emma laughed. You're the most optimistic person I've ever met. Lucas shook his head. No. I'm realistic. Emma frowned. What's the difference? Lucas answered quietly. Optimists believe everything will work out. Realists understand that when something breaks, it creates space for something new. Emma considered that. For the first time since the betrayal, she felt something unfamiliar. Hope. The offer. Lucas glanced at his watch. I have to head to a meeting soon. Emma nodded. Thanks for the conversation. Lucas stood up. Then paused. Actually. Emma. Yes? Lucas hesitated. Then said something unexpected. My company is looking for someone with organizational and communication skills. Emma blinked. You're offering me a job? An interview, Lucas corrected. You seem intelligent, composed, and capable. Emma laughed softly. You've spoken to me twice. Lucas smiled. And both times you handled difficult moments with surprising strength. Emma looked down at the table. No one had complimented her like that in a long time. Not even Daniel. Lucas pulled a business card from his wallet. He slid it across the table. Emma picked it up. Then her eyes widened. The card read, Lucas Bennett, founder and CEO, Bennett Dynamics. Emma looked up slowly. You said it was a small startup. Lucas grinned. It started that way. Emma quickly pulled out her phone and searched the company. Her eyes widened further. Bennett Dynamics was worth hundreds of millions. She stared at him. You're a billionaire. Lucas shrugged casually. Technically, yes. Emma laughed in disbelief. You bought my coffee like you were a regular guy. Lucas leaned slightly closer. I am a regular guy. Then he added softly. I just had a very unusual journey. Emma felt her heart beat faster. Life had collapsed days ago. And suddenly, a mysterious billionaire stranger was offering her a new opportunity. Lucas stepped away from the table. Think about it. He pointed to the card. Call if you're interested. Then he walked toward the door. But before leaving, he turned back and said something that stayed with her long after he was gone. Emma. Yes? The worst chapters of life often introduce the people who help write the next ones. Then he left. Emma sat there holding the card. Her old life had fallen apart. But maybe, just maybe, something extraordinary was beginning. Emma stared at the business card for a long time after Lucas left the cafe. Lucas Bennett, founder and CEO, Bennett Dynamics. The name of the company still echoed in her mind. She had looked it up twice already just to make sure she wasn't mistaken. Bennett Dynamics was a massive technology firm. News articles described it as one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country. They specialized in advanced logistics software used by hospitals, airlines, and even government agencies. The company had been valued at over $800 million just last year. Emma looked back down at the card. The same man who had calmly bought her a cup of coffee during the worst night of her life owned that company. She exhaled slowly. Her life felt like it had been flipped upside down. 3 days ago she had been a married woman living a predictable life. Now she was sitting alone in a cafe with a billionaire's business card in her hand. And the strangest part? The idea of calling him didn't feel crazy. It felt possible. The call. Emma waited until the next morning. She sat on the small couch in her hotel room staring at her phone. Her heart pounded. This is ridiculous, she muttered to herself. What if he was just being polite? What if he doesn't even remember offering the interview? But then she remembered the calm certainty in Lucas's voice. He had meant it. Emma inhaled deeply. Then she dialed the number. The phone rang twice. Bennett Dynamics, a woman answered professionally. How may I help you? Emma hesitated. Hi, Em. I was given this number by Lucas Bennett. There was a pause. May I ask who's calling? Emma Carter. Another brief silence. Then the tone of the receptionist changed instantly. One moment, Please. Emma blinked. 30 seconds later, a familiar voice came on the line. Emma. Lucas sounded almost amused. Hi, she said nervously. I wasn't sure if I should call. Lucas chuckled softly. I was wondering how long it would take. Emma frowned slightly. You expected me to call. I hoped you would. Emma shifted on the couch. So, about that interview. Lucas replied calmly. Can you come by the office this afternoon? Emma blinked. That soon? Opportunity shouldn't wait, Lucas said. 3 o'clock work for you? Emma swallowed. Yes. Great, Lucas said. I'll let the front desk know you're coming. The call ended. Emma stared at her phone. Her heart was racing. 3 days ago she was dealing with a cheating husband. Now she had an interview with a billionaire. Life was strange. At 2:45 p.m. Emma stood outside one of the tallest glass buildings downtown. The sign read. The building looked modern and sleek, with huge glass windows reflecting the sky. Employees walked confidently in and out carrying laptops and coffee cups. Emma suddenly felt underdressed. She smoothed her blouse nervously and walked inside. The lobby was enormous. Polished marble floors. Modern sculptures. A massive digital screen displaying company achievements. Emma approached the reception desk. Hi. I'm Emma Carter. The receptionist smiled immediately. Mr. Bennett is expecting you. Emma blinked again. The receptionist handed her a visitor badge. Top floor. Executive elevator on the right. Emma walked toward the elevator feeling like she had stepped into someone else's life. The doors opened silently. She pressed floor 40. As the elevator rose, Emma's stomach tightened. What if I'm not qualified for this? What if he realizes I'm just a woman whose life fell apart? The elevator dinged. The doors opened. And there was Lucas. Standing near the windows overlooking the city. He smiled when he saw her. You made it. The real Lucas. Emma walked closer. Seeing Lucas here, in his own company, felt different. He wasn't just the calm stranger from the cafe anymore. Here, he looked powerful. Confident. Like someone who had built something extraordinary. Nice office, Emma said quietly. Lucas glanced around. It's mostly glass and furniture. Emma raised an eyebrow. And an entire company. Lucas laughed. Fair point. He gestured toward a chair. Sit. Emma sat down while Lucas leaned against his desk. So, he said. Tell me about yourself. Emma explained her background. She had studied communications. Worked several years as a project coordinator. Later she helped manage administrative operations at a marketing firm. Lucas listened carefully. He asked thoughtful questions. Not once did he seem distracted. After 20 minutes he nodded. You're organized. Detail-oriented. And you communicate clearly. Emma blinked. That's good. It's exactly what I need, Lucas said. Emma frowned slightly. For what position? Lucas answered simply. My executive operations manager. Emma nearly choked. You're what? Lucas smiled. The person who helps keep my schedule, projects, and team coordination running smoothly. Emma stared at him. That sounds like a huge responsibility. It is. Why me? Lucas looked at her calmly. Because skills matter. But character matters more. Emma felt heat rise in her cheeks. You barely know me. Lucas shrugged slightly. Sometimes it doesn't take long to recognize someone's strength. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she said something honest. My life is a mess right now. Lucas shook his head. No. Your life is in transition. He handed her a folder. Inside was an offer letter. Emma's eyes widened. The salary alone was higher than anything she had ever earned. You're serious, she whispered. Lucas nodded. Very. Emma looked up at him. I don't even know what to say. Lucas smiled gently. Say yes. The first crack in the past. Emma accepted the job. Her first week passed quickly. Lucas turned out to be an incredible boss. Focused. Calm. Never arrogant. Employees clearly respected him. Emma noticed something interesting though. Despite his success, Lucas lived simply. He drove a modest car, worked long hours, and treated everyone in the company the same, from executives to janitors. Emma began to feel comfortable again. Like she was rebuilding herself piece by piece. Then one afternoon her phone buzzed. The screen showed a name she hadn't seen in days. Daniel. Emma's stomach tightened. She hesitated, then answered. What do you want? Daniel sounded different. Less confident. Emma, can we talk? I think we already did. Please. Emma sighed. 5 minutes. Daniel spoke quickly. I heard you're working somewhere new. Emma frowned. How do you know that? Mutual friends. Emma waited. Then Daniel said something that made her heart sink. They told me who your boss is. Emma stayed silent. Daniel's voice suddenly sounded desperate. Emma, why didn't you tell me you knew Lucas Bennett? Emma felt anger rising. Because I didn't know him until last week. Daniel exhaled sharply. You're working directly with a billionaire. So. Emma. Daniel hesitated. Then said the word she had never expected. I think we made a mistake rushing into divorce. Emma stared at the wall in disbelief. You cheated on me. Daniel rushed on. I know. But people make mistakes. Emma felt her jaw tighten. Just days ago Daniel had been indifferent. Now suddenly he wanted to fix things. And she knew exactly why. Daniel, she said slowly. You don't want me back. You want access to my new life. Daniel stayed silent. That silence confirmed everything. Emma hung up. For the first time since the betrayal. She didn't cry. Instead, she smiled slightly. Because now she understood something clearly. Daniel had lost her. And this time. He knew it. Lucas notices. Later that evening Lucas noticed Emma was unusually quiet. They were reviewing schedules in his office. You seem distracted, he said. Emma sighed. My soon-to-be ex-husband called. Lucas leaned back slightly. Let me guess. He wants another chance. Emma looked at him, surprised. How did you know? Lucas smiled faintly. Patterns. Emma laughed softly. Well, you were right. Lucas folded his arms. People rarely regret losing someone until they realize someone else values them. Emma considered that. Then she asked quietly. Why are you helping me so much? Lucas didn't answer immediately. He walked to the window and looked out over the city. Then he said something unexpected. Because someone once helped me when my life collapsed. Emma leaned forward slightly. What happened to you? Lucas turned back toward her. His expression had changed. More serious. Emma. Have you ever heard the phrase? Rock bottom is the place where real strength begins. Emma nodded slowly. Lucas gave a small smile. Then one day. I'll tell you the story of how I reached mine. Emma didn't know why. But something told her Lucas's past held a secret. A secret that would explain everything. And maybe change both of their lives forever. Emma had been working at Bennett Dynamics for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of rebuilding. 3 weeks of learning. 3 weeks of slowly remembering who she was before heartbreak. Her days were full now. Meetings. Schedules. Project updates. Lucas trusted her with more responsibility than she had ever handled before. And surprisingly, she was good at it. Really good. For the first time in years, Emma felt confident again. But the past has a strange way of returning exactly when you start moving forward. And that moment arrived on a quiet Thursday afternoon. Emma was organizing Lucas's calendar when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. But curiosity made her open the message. We need to talk. Coffee shop across from your office. 10 minutes. No name. But she already knew who it was. Daniel. Emma sighed. She stared at the message for a moment. Part of her wanted to ignore it completely. But another part of her wanted closure. Real closure. She stood up and walked into Lucas's office. Lucas was reviewing documents on his tablet. Everything okay? He asked. Emma nodded slowly. My ex wants to meet for 10 minutes. Lucas studied her expression. Do you want to go? Emma thought about it. Then nodded. Yes. Lucas leaned back in his chair. Then go. Emma blinked. That's it. Lucas smiled slightly. You don't need permission. Emma laughed softly. Fair point. But as she walked toward the door, Lucas added one more thing. Emma. She turned. Remember who you are now. Emma nodded. Then she left. The coffee shop. Daniel was already sitting at a table when Emma arrived. He stood quickly when he saw her. For a brief moment, Emma felt a strange sense of déjà vu. They had shared hundreds of coffee shop moments during their marriage. But this one felt completely different. Daniel looked nervous. His hair was slightly messy. His confidence was gone. Emma, thanks for coming. Emma sat down calmly. You have 10 minutes. Daniel nodded quickly. Right. He leaned forward. I've been thinking a lot. Emma raised an eyebrow. That sounds dangerous. Daniel ignored the comment. I made a mistake. Emma crossed her arms. You said that already. Daniel sighed. No, I mean it this time. Emma looked directly into his eyes. Do you even hear yourself? Daniel hesitated. What do you mean? Emma spoke slowly. You cheated on me. You lied for months. And the moment you discover I'm working with someone successful, you suddenly want me back. Daniel's face reddened. That's not fair. Emma tilted her head. Oh really? Daniel's voice hardened slightly. You're acting like you're perfect. Emma blinked. Perfect. You had an emotional affair too. Emma froze. What? Daniel leaned back in his chair. With Lucas. Emma stared at him. That's ridiculous. Daniel shrugged. Is it? You started working for him immediately after leaving me. Emma felt anger rising. You betrayed our marriage. Daniel leaned forward again. And you replaced me in a week. Emma stood up. We're done here. But Daniel said something that stopped her. You really don't know, do you? Emma frowned. Know what? Daniel smiled faintly. About Lucas. A cold chill moved down Emma's spine. What about him? Daniel pulled out his phone. He turned the screen toward her. Emma looked down. It was an article headline. Her heart skipped. Billionaire Lucas Bennett's rise from corporate scandal and betrayal. Emma looked up. What is this? Daniel smirked slightly. Looks like your new hero has a past. Emma grabbed the phone and read quickly. 5 years earlier, Lucas had co-founded a tech company. But according to the article, his business partners had betrayed him. They pushed him out of the company he helped build. Took control. Left him with nothing. Emma looked back up slowly. Daniel folded his arms. Funny, right? The guy who saved you was once completely destroyed himself. Emma felt something unexpected. Not fear. Respect. Because suddenly Lucas's calm strength made sense. Emma handed the phone back. Daniel frowned. That's it. Emma nodded. Yes. Daniel looked confused. You're not worried? Emma shook her head. No. Then she smiled slightly. I'm impressed. Daniel stared at her. Emma leaned closer and said quietly. The difference between you and Lucas is that he turned betrayal into success. And you turned it into excuses. Daniel had no response. Emma walked away. And this time, she didn't look back. That evening Emma walked into Lucas's office. Lucas noticed her expression immediately. Let me guess. Coffee shop confrontation? Emma nodded. He told me about your past. Lucas didn't react. He simply nodded. Ah. Emma studied him carefully. You're not surprised. Lucas leaned back in his chair. I assumed it would come up eventually. Emma hesitated. Is it true? Lucas answered calmly. Yes. Emma sat down slowly. What happened? Lucas stared out the window for a moment. Then he began speaking. 5 years ago, I built a company with 2 friends. We started with nothing. Just ideas and late nights. Emma listened quietly. We grew fast, Lucas continued. Too fast. Investors came in. Money came in. Egos came in. He paused. One day my partners decided they didn't need me anymore. Emma felt her chest tighten. They forced you out. Lucas nodded. Legally. They manipulated the board. Rewrote contracts. And suddenly, I was gone. Emma shook her head. That's horrible. Lucas smiled faintly. At the time it felt like the end of the world. Emma leaned forward. How did you recover? Lucas looked directly at her. The same way you are. Emma blinked. What do you mean? Lucas answered simply. By realizing the people who betray you don't get to define your future. Silence filled the office. Emma suddenly understood something. Lucas hadn't helped her because he pitied her. He helped her because he recognized her situation. He had lived it. Lucas stood up and walked toward the window again. You know something interesting about rock bottom? Emma waited. Lucas smiled slightly. It removes every illusion. Emma nodded slowly. And when the illusions disappear. Lucas finished the thought. You finally see who you really are. Emma felt something powerful shift inside her. For weeks she had thought her life had collapsed. But maybe, just maybe, it had only begun to rebuild. Emma didn't know it yet. But the next chapter of her life would bring something even more unexpected. Because Daniel wasn't finished. And Lucas's past was about to collide with Emma's future. Emma had been working at Bennett Dynamics for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of rebuilding. 3 weeks of learning. Emma woke up early the next morning feeling different. For weeks she had been carrying the weight of betrayal. But something about her conversation with Lucas had shifted her perspective. Daniel's betrayal no longer defined her story. It was simply the event that pushed her into a new chapter. And that realization made her feel stronger than she had in months. She arrived at Bennett Dynamics earlier than usual. The office floor was still quiet. Sunlight poured through the tall glass windows, casting long shadows across the sleek desks and workstations. Emma placed her bag down and opened her laptop. Her responsibilities had grown quickly over the past few weeks. Lucas trusted her with sensitive projects, company scheduling, and coordination between multiple departments. At first it had intimidated her. Now it excited her. Because for the first time in years, she felt capable, valuable, important. But that morning was about to bring a challenge she never expected. At 9:15 a.m., Emma noticed something unusual. The company's internal messaging channels were suddenly buzzing. Employees were posting urgent questions. Confused messages. Then her phone rang. It was Marcus, the head of operations. Emma, are you seeing this? Yes, Emma replied quickly. What's going on? Marcus sounded tense. One of our major clients just suspended their contract. Emma's stomach dropped. How big of a client? Marcus hesitated. Very big. Emma quickly pulled up the client file. Her eyes widened. The contract was worth *** tens of millions of dollars ***. What happened? She asked. Marcus lowered his voice. They received an anonymous report claiming our system has a major security vulnerability. Emma frowned. That's not possible. Marcus agreed. It's not. But the rumor is spreading. Emma knew exactly what that meant. In the technology world, even a rumor about security issues could cause panic. And panic could destroy trust. Which meant losing clients. She stood up immediately. Where's Lucas? Marcus answered quickly. He's in a board meeting. Emma nodded. All right. I'm going to verify the claim. Marcus sounded surprised. You? Emma replied firmly. Yes. Emma walked quickly to the cybersecurity department. Inside the office, several engineers were already analyzing system logs. Emma approached one of them. Has anyone found evidence of a breach? The engineer shook his head. Nothing. Emma crossed her arms. Then this is probably misinformation. The engineer nodded. Most likely. Emma thought carefully. Someone had started this rumor deliberately. The question was, who? She returned to her desk and began searching recent communications, industry forums, and news alerts. Within 20 minutes she found something interesting. A technology blog had published a vague article claiming that Bennett Dynamics software might have vulnerabilities. The article quoted an anonymous industry insider. Emma frowned. She recognized the blog. It was owned by a company called *** Cortex Solutions ***. Her heart skipped. Because Cortex sounded familiar. She quickly searched again. And then she understood. Cortex Solutions was run by two executives. The same two men who had betrayed Lucas years ago. Emma leaned back in her chair. This isn't a rumor, she whispered. It's revenge. An hour later Lucas walked into his office. Emma was already waiting. He noticed her expression immediately. Something's wrong. Emma nodded. A major client suspended their contract. Lucas stayed calm. Why? Emma slid a tablet across the desk. Lucas read the article headline. His jaw tightened slightly. Core Tech, he said quietly. Emma nodded. I did some digging. Looks like your former partners are spreading rumors about our system. Lucas stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he exhaled slowly. I wondered when they'd try something like this. Emma frowned. You expected it? Lucas gave a small smile. Success attracts enemies. Emma leaned forward. So what do we do? Lucas stood up. He looked completely calm. First, we prove the rumor is false. Emma nodded. Already working on it. Lucas's eyes softened slightly. I figured you would be. Emma continued. I've already spoken with cybersecurity. They confirmed there's no breach. Lucas crossed his arms thoughtfully. Good. But rumors spread faster than facts. Emma nodded. That's why we should respond immediately. Lucas looked at her curiously. What do you suggest? Emma stood up and began outlining her idea. We release a public transparency report today. Lucas listened carefully. Emma continued. Detailed system verification. Independent security audit. And direct communication with our major clients. Lucas smiled slowly. That's actually brilliant. Emma blinked. You think so? Lucas nodded. Transparency destroys fear. Emma felt a spark of confidence. Lucas walked toward the door. Let's do it. By afternoon, Bennett Dynamics released an official statement. The company published a complete security audit. Independent cybersecurity experts confirmed the system was fully secure. Within hours, the rumor began collapsing. Industry analysts praised the company's transparency. And the suspended client reinstated their contract. The crisis ended almost as quickly as it started. But something else had changed. That evening Lucas called Emma into his office. He leaned against the desk with a thoughtful expression. You handled today incredibly well. Emma shrugged slightly. I just followed the evidence. Lucas shook his head. No. You took initiative. Emma felt her cheeks warm slightly. Thank you. Lucas looked at her more seriously now. You didn't just solve a problem today. You protected the company. Emma didn't know what to say. Lucas continued. Most people freeze during pressure. You didn't. Emma smiled softly. Maybe betrayal makes people stronger. Lucas chuckled. Sometimes. Then he said something unexpected. I want to give you more responsibility. Emma blinked. More. Lucas nodded. You're ready. Emma felt excitement and nervousness at the same time. What kind of responsibility? Lucas smiled. Strategic operations. Emma's eyes widened. That's a huge role. Lucas nodded. Yes. But I trust you. Emma realized something important in that moment. 3 weeks ago she had been a woman sitting alone in a cafe, crying over a broken marriage. Now she was helping lead operations for one of the fastest growing companies in the tech industry. Life had changed faster than she ever imagined. Meanwhile, Daniel's life was moving in the opposite direction. The woman he had been seeing, her name was Lauren, had lost interest once the excitement faded. His work performance had dropped. And rumors about Emma working with Lucas Bennett had spread among their mutual friends. Daniel sat alone in his apartment scrolling through social media. One post caught his attention. A business news article. *** Bennett Dynamics defeats corporate smear campaign with transparency. ***. The article praised the company's leadership. And at the bottom, there was a photo. Lucas standing confidently. Emma beside him. Daniel stared at the image for a long time. The realization hit him like a punch to the chest. Emma wasn't falling apart. She was rising. And Lucas Bennett, the man Daniel had mocked, was helping her become something stronger. Daniel whispered to himself bitterly. I made the biggest mistake of my life. But by then, it was far too late. Emma's story was only beginning. And soon, her life and Lucas's would take another unexpected turn. Because success has a strange way of bringing people closer together. 2 months had passed since the day Emma first walked into Bennett Dynamics. In those 2 months, her life had transformed completely. The divorce papers with Daniel were almost finalized. Her work with Lucas had grown into something far more significant than she ever imagined. She was no longer just managing schedules or coordinating meetings. She was helping guide strategy, planning expansions, handling sensitive negotiations. And Lucas trusted her judgment more every day. But the biggest opportunity and challenge was about to arrive. Late one afternoon, Lucas walked into Emma's office with a serious expression. Clear your schedule for next week, he said. Emma looked up from her laptop. Why? Lucas handed her a folder. Inside were documents, contracts, and international travel plans. Emma's eyes widened. London? Lucas nodded. We're negotiating a global partnership with a major European healthcare network. Emma flipped through the pages. The numbers made her heart skip. This deal is enormous. Lucas smiled slightly. If we secure it, Bennett Dynamics becomes a global leader overnight. Emma looked up. And you want me there? Lucas leaned against the door frame. You're the reason we survived the last crisis. You should be part of the biggest opportunity. Emma felt excitement rush through her. Her life had once been small and predictable. Now she was traveling internationally to help close a massive business deal. All right, she said with a determined smile. Let's go to London. The flight across the Atlantic was long but surprisingly calm. Emma sat beside the window watching clouds drift beneath the plane. Lucas sat across the aisle reviewing documents on his tablet. At one point he glanced over. Nervous? Emma smiled. A little. Lucas closed the tablet. That's normal. Emma turned slightly in her seat. Do you ever get nervous? Lucas thought about the question. Before big decisions, yes. Emma tilted her head. You don't seem like someone who doubts himself. Lucas chuckled softly. Confidence isn't the absence of doubt. Emma frowned. Then what is it? Lucas answered simply. Moving forward despite the doubt. Emma thought about that. It sounded exactly like what she had been doing with her own life. The city greeted them with grey skies and cool air. London felt historic and powerful. Tall buildings mixed with centuries-old architecture. Busy streets filled with taxis and people rushing between offices. Emma stood near the hotel window that evening, watching the city lights. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated. Then answered. Hello? A voice she recognized immediately spoke. Emma. Her stomach tightened. Daniel. What do you want? Daniel sounded different again. Almost desperate. I heard you're in London. Emma frowned. How do you even know that? Daniel hesitated. Social media. Emma shook her head. You're stalking my life now. Daniel ignored the comment. I need to see you. Emma laughed softly. That's not happening. Daniel's voice grew more intense. You don't understand. Emma rolled her eyes. No, Daniel. You don't understand. We are finished. But Daniel said something that made her pause. Lucas Bennett isn't who you think he is. Emma felt irritation rising. You already tried that argument. No, Daniel said quickly. This is different. Emma sighed. You have 30 seconds. Daniel lowered his voice. I heard something from a friend in finance. Emma waited. Daniel continued. The company Lucas built years ago. The one his partners stole. Emma's patience faded. Yes, I know that story. Daniel spoke slowly now. Do you know who helped those partners take the company from him? Emma's eyebrows furrowed. What are you talking about? Daniel hesitated. Then said quietly. My company. Emma froze. What? Daniel continued nervously. The investment firm I work for financed the takeover. Emma felt a sudden chill. You're saying your company helped destroy Lucas's first business? Yes. Emma's mind raced. Lucas had lost everything because of those investors. And Daniel had unknowingly worked for them. Daniel continued. They're watching Bennett Dynamics now. Emma's voice dropped. What do you mean? Daniel answered quietly. They want Lucas's new company too. Emma's heart pounded. Daniel, if you're lying. I'm not. Emma ended the call. Her thoughts were spinning. The next morning Emma met Lucas in the hotel conference room. He was reviewing final negotiation notes. Emma hesitated. Lucas. He looked up. What's wrong? Emma took a breath. There's something you need to know. Lucas listened quietly as she explained the phone call with Daniel. She expected Lucas to look shocked. Angry. But instead, he simply nodded. You already knew, Emma said slowly. Lucas leaned back in his chair. Yes. Emma stared at him. You knew Daniel's company was involved. Lucas nodded again. Emma shook her head in disbelief. Why didn't you tell me? Lucas answered calmly. Because it wasn't relevant. Emma frowned. It seems pretty relevant. Lucas smiled faintly. Emma. They took my first company. But they didn't take my future. Emma sat down slowly. So you're not worried? Lucas's eyes sharpened slightly. Oh, they're definitely watching. Emma's heart beat faster. Then why take this deal? Lucas stood up and walked toward the window overlooking the city. Because this deal does something important. Emma waited. Lucas turned back toward her. It makes Bennett Dynamics too powerful to destroy. Emma realized something then. Lucas hadn't just rebuilt his life. He had been quietly building something unstoppable. And she was now part of it. That evening the negotiations went incredibly well. The European healthcare network agreed to move forward with the partnership. The deal was nearly finalized. Emma and Lucas walked through the quiet streets afterward. The city lights reflected off the wet pavement. For a moment neither of them spoke. Then Lucas said quietly, You know, the night we met in that café. Emma smiled slightly. The worst night of my life. Lucas nodded. I almost didn't stop. Emma looked at him. Why did you? Lucas thought about it. Because I recognized something. Emma raised an eyebrow. What? Lucas answered softly. Strength. Emma laughed gently. I was crying in a booth. Lucas smiled. Yes. But you were still standing. Emma looked at him carefully. For the first time, there was something deeper in Lucas's eyes. Something warmer. And in that quiet London street, Emma felt the beginning of something unexpected. Not just respect. Not just friendship. But something far more powerful. And neither of them knew yet that their lives were about to change again. London was unusually bright the next morning. Sunlight spilled through the tall windows of the conference room where Emma and Lucas sat across from the European healthcare executives. Lawyers flipped through contracts. Assistants passed documents across the table. Everything had led to this moment. Months of preparation. Years of work. And for Emma, a journey that began the night her life fell apart. Lucas sat beside her, calm as always. But Emma noticed something subtle. His fingers tapped the table once. Then stopped. It was the only sign of nerves she had ever seen from him. Finally the lead executive slid the final document forward. Mr. Bennett, the man said with a smile. We're ready. Lucas picked up the pen. He paused briefly. Then signed. Emma signed as a witness. The other executives followed. And just like that, the deal was done. The room filled with applause. The partnership between Bennett Dynamics and the European network instantly became one of the largest technology healthcare collaborations in the industry. Journalists outside the building were already preparing headlines. Employees back at headquarters were celebrating. Lucas stood and shook hands with the executives. Then he turned to Emma. Congratulations. Emma blinked. To you. Lucas shook his head. No. To us. Emma felt a wave of pride wash over her. Because for the first time in her life, she truly believed she deserved to be part of something this big. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, Daniel sat at his desk staring at a news article on his computer screen. The article included a photo from the signing ceremony. Lucas stood confidently at the center. Emma stood beside him. Daniel leaned back slowly. The reality was impossible to ignore now. Emma wasn't just surviving. She was thriving. And the man she once depended on had become completely irrelevant to her life. Daniel closed the article quietly. For the first time, he understood something painful. Emma had never needed him as much as he believed. And losing her had been the biggest mistake he would ever make. A few days later, Emma returned home. Her divorce papers were finalized. Legally, the chapter with Daniel was over. But she decided to meet him one final time. Not out of anger. Not out of regret. Just for closure. They met at a quiet park. Daniel looked older somehow. Tired. Hi, he said awkwardly. Hi. They sat on a bench under a large tree. For a moment neither of them spoke. Finally Daniel sighed. I saw the news. Emma nodded. It was a big week. Daniel looked down. You look happy. Emma thought about that. Then nodded again. I am. Daniel swallowed. I guess I underestimated you. Emma smiled gently. No. You just never really saw me. Daniel didn't argue. Because he knew it was true. After a few minutes Emma stood up. Well. I think this is goodbye. Daniel nodded slowly. I'm sorry, Emma. Emma looked at him calmly. I believe you. Daniel blinked in surprise. You do? Yes. Emma smiled softly. But sometimes apologies arrive too late. Then she turned and walked away. And for the first time since the betrayal, Daniel felt the full weight of losing someone truly special. That night Emma returned to Bennett Dynamics headquarters. Most employees had gone home. The office floor was quiet. Lucas stood near the windows of his office, looking out at the city lights. Emma walked in. Long day, she asked. Lucas smiled. Very. Emma leaned against the desk. Deal finalized. Global expansion secured. Lucas nodded. Not bad for a company that almost got destroyed by rumors a few months ago. Emma laughed. Not bad for two people who met in a roadside cafe. Lucas looked at her thoughtfully. You know something? Emma raised an eyebrow. What? Lucas walked closer. If you hadn't walked into that cafe that night. Emma interrupted playfully. You sat at my table. Lucas chuckled. Fair point. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Lucas said something quietly. I'm glad your husband cheated. Emma stared at him in shock. Wow. Lucas laughed quickly. That came out wrong. Emma crossed her arms. You think? Lucas shook his head. What I mean is. He paused. If life hadn't fallen apart for you that night, we never would have met. Emma's expression softened. She knew exactly what he meant. Because sometimes the worst moments of life lead directly to the best ones. Months passed. Bennett Dynamics continued expanding around the world. Emma's role grew into a full executive leadership position. She helped oversee international operations. She traveled. She learned. She built something meaningful. And somewhere along the way, her friendship with Lucas evolved into something deeper. Stronger. Not rushed. Not forced. Just natural. One evening, almost a year after the night they first met, Lucas took Emma back to the same roadside cafe. The neon *** open 24 hours ** sign still flickered. Emma laughed as they sat in the same booth. This place started everything. Lucas nodded. Yes, it did. The waitress brought coffee. Emma looked at Lucas curiously. So why did you bring me here tonight? Lucas smiled slightly. Because some stories deserve a full circle. Emma raised an eyebrow. What kind of full circle? Lucas reached into his jacket pocket and placed a small velvet box on the table. Emma's heart skipped. Lucas. He opened the box. Inside was a simple, elegant ring. Lucas looked at her with the same calm confidence she had admired since the beginning. Emma, he said quietly. That night in this cafe, you thought your life was over. Emma smiled softly. I remember. Lucas continued. But sometimes the end of one story is the beginning of something better. Emma felt tears forming in her eyes. Lucas took a breath. Will you marry me? Emma laughed through her tears. You know something funny? Lucas tilted his head. What? Emma smiled. That night when you bought my coffee, I had no idea you were about to change my entire life. Lucas grinned. Is that a yes? Emma nodded. Yes. Years later, Emma would often tell friends something simple. The worst night of her life, the night she caught her husband with another woman, had actually been the night her real life began. Because heartbreak sometimes clears the path for something better. And sometimes, the stranger who helps you on your darkest night becomes the person who walks beside you for the rest of your life. ***, the end ***.